Hello everybody, my name's Bill, this is SixRounds Studio. Over the next several months we're going to do a series of videos where we're going to build two solid body guitars. And those two guitars are going to be made out of two different materials. Now the first one is going to be this ash body blank. And then the second guitar is going to be made out of a body blank that's Tele. And I'm going to take you through the process of building those guitars. Now the bodies are going to be solid, but the guitars are going to have a veneered top. The ash body is going to have this vintage maple flooring that comes out of an old mill building that was built in the late 1800s here in my town. I managed to score some of this. We're going to cut this up and we're going to make a veneered top out of this. We're going to leave all the nail holes and all the blemishes that is the story, that is the history of that building. And we're going to cut this into thin veneers, and then we're going to glue this all to the top of this ash body. Now the Tele body, we're going to glue a thin laminate of fiddleback or tiger stripe maple over the top of that, and you can see how thin that is. And this is not the piece that's going to be glued on, but I just wanted to use it as an example that you can see how thin it is. And we're going to glue that as well onto the top of this body. Today's video though is about prepping this mahogany or Tele blank, getting it ready for glue up. Now I cut these two body blanks out of this larger piece of mahogany. So I've got them cut rough lengths. Now they're oversized. Everything about this is oversized. We need to prep these two edges so that when we bring the two halves together, that joint is seamless. But before we do that, we need to choose the book match so that whatever we see from the back of the guitar is the best look, it's the best appearance. So I've been rolling this thing around, and of course from the blank you've got two sides. So that when we do the book match, we want to make sure it's the same side that is book matched, so that when you look at it, it looks like it's book matched. Now again, this is going to be seen from the back of the guitar because the worst side is going to have that laminate glued on it. So I keep rolling this around and I keep trying to look at it and see what would be the best look to see when you're looking at the back of the guitar. Now the thing I don't like about this side is you get that steeple grain that is typical of flat sawn wood, and it's obvious. So I want the laminate to go over the top of that so that it doesn't show. Now when we come over, flip it over, we've got a couple things going on. So the first thing that we've got going on is that it is a total long stripe of lighter wood, and we have to now decide what we think would make the best center of the guitar, so that when we cut this down into the size of the blank, that the book match is as appealing aesthetically from center as we move our way out to the outside of the blank. And I'm kind of looking at this from different angles. Now this has a nice taper to center. Okay, so that's going to be the best look right there. So I've got a nice line coming down here and a nice line coming here. What you visually see for grain and structure on one side of the center line is almost exactly matched as what you see on the other side of the center line. And we've got a lot of nice things going on here. You guys can't see it, but there's a lot of grain, there's a lot of shimmering that goes on depending on where the light is hitting it. And we're going to just barely shave a little bit off here. And that's going to be our blanks, and I'm going to put bottom and bottom. Now the other thing that we want to see happen is when we bring these together, you want to see I don't know if this camera's going to pick it up, but the rings, the circles, or the growth rings of the tree, we want those to come together also, so that again, so that book match also shows up in the growth rings as well. The next thing we need to do is set up the joiner so that when I bring those two edges together, that is as seamless as we can make it. So one of the misconceptions, or at least one of the misconceptions in my world, my belief, is that a joiner will actually build a perfectly flat and straight edge. And they do a really pretty good job. But when we start wanting to glue together these two halves, the fit is critical. It needs to be really flat and really true. And unfortunately, the joiner doesn't always give the best results with that. I mean, you can spend a lot of time tuning up a joiner. I've done that, but it still doesn't give you a perfectly matched set of joints. So I've been doing this for a long time. I've been building guitars for quite a while, and it's, again, my experience that if I want to get these joints really flat, that at the end of the day, I need to do this by hand. I need to use a hand joiner and tighten up these joints by using the hand joiner, the hand plane. So the other thing that, so we're concerned that we've got a nice true flat edge. The other thing we have to do is, whatever is the show side, we need to make sure that that joint is flat to that show side. And in this case, it's pretty good. So we've got a nice surface to guide off from. So we're going to start planing, hand planing this, and trying to get that edge is flat and true from end to end as we can, so that when we do the two, they match up. And then when we do that glue surface, you're not going to see that seam. That's always the goal. So I have my Lee Nielsen. If you're going to use a hand plane, you want to take off very small shavings. If you start trying to take too much off, what ends up happening is it starts to move or rock the hand plane, and it will also tend to gouge or to take such a large chunk of material out that it'll leave rough spots, not just rough spots, but it'll gouge the wood, and again, then you lose that really tight glue surface that you're after. We have a really nice fit. So the next thing we need to do is go get the glue, and we're going to glue and clamp this thing, and then we're going to let it dry overnight. All right, we got a really nice tight seam, so we're ready to glue it up. So we're going to use Titebond and Titebond 2. So one of the advantages to Titebond 2 is that it's water resistant. So if this guitar gets played out in the moisture, there's a smaller chance that the glue joint's going to come apart. You could use Titebond Original, that would work as well. But I'm going to use the 2 here. The fit is really good. We're ready to squeeze this thing up. Because I'm doing this on my table saw, I'm going to put some paper down. So freshly planed or scraped surfaces are probably your best bet for gluing up. So if you've got a surface that you might have jointed or planed months ago, it's always better to go back and scrape it and get that fresh wood, get those pores opened up. We're going to try and spread this as evenly as we can so we get a nice coat everywhere. We are going to get some squeeze out, and that's fine. I'm going to try and get that glue down in all of the wood pores or into the cell structure. A lot of people underestimate the strength of glue, and I've seen several tests. Fine Woodworking did a test several years ago that sort of proved that the glue sometimes was stronger than the surrounding woods. Thought that was kind of interesting. They proved that in most cases that the wood would give away before the glue did. Okay, so I put lines in to match the grain. When I glue it back up, these are the places that I really want the length of the color, the length of the grain to come back together because of that book match that we were worried about or trying to accomplish. Oh, that's perfect. We're getting all the obligatory squeeze out of the glue. Just keep cinching this up. Unlike epoxies, which don't require a lot of pressure, wood glues, especially Titebond, needs to be squeezed up pretty tight. That is going to be a nice seam. that is going to look really good. All right, guys, we're going to let this dry overnight. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll start machining both the surfaces, both the flat surfaces, and then we're going to cut this blank up to the proper dimensions for the final guitar. We got a really good glue up here. No complaints on this at all. We need to chip away the glue spill out or squeeze out. I won't be able to tell how tight this is or how good that seam looks until I get it through the planer so that I expose all that fresh wood. And one of the things is I do have a little bit of a high spot here, which is fine, which means I should have a corresponding low spot there, which I do. So when I run it through the planer, it'll ride on these high spots on the table, which will stabilize it. And it'll begin to take the bulk of material off the center, and then we'll work it out. I'll check it with a ruler, and then once that's done, once we've got the show surface planed down, then I can roll this over and I'll have a nice flat spot that won't rock. And then I can run the thickness, the final thickness through the planer once I have a good base surface to work off from. So let's go get this thing planed up next. I had an old friend ask me once why I thought I needed a planer so large, because most home hobby woodworkers, they have a 12-inch portable planer. Well, this is a 20-inch jet. And one thing that you never ask a woodworker or a hot rodder is how big is big enough, because you can always use more horsepower and more displacement. And in this case, this is a 20-inch planer. This is an 18.5-inch wide blank. And I'm going to need all of this planer in order to get this this blank through here. So never ask a woodworker why his planer is so large. All right, let's go ahead and do this. So the next thing that we need to do is to plane the thickness, but in order to do that I need to know how thick my overlay or my veneer is going to be, so that my total thickness when I do the veneer equals the total thickness of the blank or the guitar blank when I'm done. So let's go figure that out. So the blueprint calls for the total thickness of the body of the guitar to be 1.750 or 1.75 inches. And the laminate or the veneer that I'm going to glue over the top of that is going to be 250 thousandths-ish. We'll work on that final dimension as we get closer. So I'm going to plane this to a total thickness, the raw blank or the rough blank, down to 1.5 inches, so that when I add that 250 thousandths or 1/4 inch laminate or veneer to the top, my total dimension is going to be the 1.75 inches. Now, there's no hard and fast rule that says this guitar has to be 1.75 inches. The last guitar that I built, the Snake, it was built out of northeastern spruce, And that thing actually ended up being a little thinner than the 1 3/4 by, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't matter. I actually lightened the guitar up a little bit. So this is simply the production dimensions on the body, but you can make it anything you want. I'm not overly concerned about it, but I do need that base dimension to start with. So our goal out of the box is 1 3/4. Let's go plane the other side. After planing down the back, or the good surface, or the show surface, we now have a total thickness of 1 inch 900 thousandths. We need to bring this down to 1 inch 500 thousandths, or 1.5 inches. So we need to take away 400 thousandths worth of material. Now I need to make sure that I've left a little bit of material on top of that, because probably about 25 thousandths, because I am going to have to hand plane that surface, that final glue surface, to make sure that it's as flat as it can be, because when I glue that laminate or that veneer on top, I need to make sure that both surfaces are just as flat as can be. Just like when we did the seam, we need a really good strong flat joint so that the glue maintains its bond as best as it can. So again, we're going to end up down somewhere around 1 inch 525, so that I have enough to plane and to scrape, so that that joint for the veneer is perfect. This came out really nice. Now I mentioned that once I planed it, we'd be able to see that glue seam. There's almost no seam. There's a little bit, you're going to see a little bit of that glue line, but it's virtually invisible, which is going to be really great, because once we start putting finish on, that seam will disappear completely. So one thing that I did discover is I planed down through into the deeper part of the blank. I changed my mind on what's going to be the back, because that castle grain or that steeple grain completely went away. And getting down deeper into this, what was going to be the top is now going to be the back, because the grain, the color, the shimmering is all that much more interesting. So we changed our mind. We're going to use the original back now for the top, and we're going to use the original top for the back, because it's stunning. It's just beautiful. When I start to dimension this, one of the things that I need to do is I need to have a center line. Everything has to come, all the datums on the print, the datums come from center. Everything works out from the center. And traditionally what I've always done is I've used that glue seam as my center line. And I'm going to continue to do that. So literally I had to study this closely to see that glue line. And then I've marked it, and then I'm going to simply use a ruler, and I'm going to draw a center line. And we'll draw that center line on both sides, so that no matter what I'm doing, I have that point of reference to work off from. So now the top has a center line, and the back has a center line. So now I've got to dimension this thing, and I've got to dimension it into a blank that I can use in order to do the rest of the work. Now I have to do the veneering. The veneering, the same thing, it's going to come work its way out from the center line. But I need a overall size of this, or a beginning size of this. Now the guitar, the width finishes out at 12 3/4 of an inch. But I don't want to go right down to that dimension. I need some material to bandsaw away the basic shape. And then I need a little bit of material left over from the bandsaw in order to go onto the shaper and to do the final shape or the final dimensions there. I am going to make this 14 inches wide to start. So that's going to give me a little over an inch, inch and an eighth on a side that is remaining for me to cut away. So we're going to go 7 inches from center. And we'll cut off that left side. Then we'll go 7 inches from center in order to cut off the other side. Now mahogany is really very easy to cut. So I'm taking the full thickness, the full 1.5 inches off here. I'm not concerned about it. It should come off without a lot of, just a lot of resistance. It should work really well. Let's do this. 14, we're perfect. All right. The next thing I need to do is cut the length. We're going to trim what I'm going to call the back, or the end. The end is where the jack pin goes. It's also where the strap pin goes. So that end is going to be the end. Quite literally, we are cutting the finished surface for that end of the guitar. So this will be the end. This will be where the neck gets attached up here. Now the blueprint calls for the overall length to be just under 16 inches. So I'm going to cut it just over 16 inches. That'll leave me enough room when I get to the shaper that I can pull off some of that dimension on the shaper. So I'd rather have just a little bit extra. Now when I'm doing this kind of work, I always like to do a line, just a reference line, so that when I'm cutting, it becomes very quickly obvious if there's any wandering or if I'm getting off track on the saw. Let's see how this came out. 21 3/8. So it is slightly out of square, but that's fine. Again, everything from this point now comes off that center line. So, like I said, this is all oversized on purpose. Boy, that's going to be really stunning, guys. That's really, really pretty. And you're not going to be able to see that until the finish goes on. It's just really nice. All right. We're done roughing in the main body on the guitar. When we come back for the next video on the guitar, we're going to start working on building the laminate. We need to actually build that laminate plate just like we did this main body. We'll start gluing up all the veneers or the laminates together. They all have to be edge glued, so I have to go through the same process. I need to make sure that I got a good tight seam, good tight fit. Once we've got those glued up, at that point we'll be able to put them into the vacuum press and then glue this whole thing up. When that's done, then we're able to start actually cutting and building the guitar. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We got a lot of good stuff coming here. Remember, we got that Steven's favorite that we're going to start working on here in the very near future. Consider heading on over to my Patreon page and supporting me over there. It all helps pay the bills, guys. Also, you can use that super thanks, which is located just below the video. If any one of my videos has helped you in any way, and you're not interested in going over and supporting me on Patreon, that's another way. $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, anything you're interested in, all helps support all of this production. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.